Hi, this is Joe Masick, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Industrial Revolution today. This is Tennessee Ernie Ford, sitting 16. What was manufactured in this Industrial Revolution? Well, it was manufacturing and assembly. We know what assembly plants are these days, but that was something new. An assembly line, each product was fixed and then it would move down the line and another component would be fixed. It was also steel and textiles, ceramics, clothing, paper, glass, mining, food, household goods, and pretty much anything that you can think of was manufactured. We may think of some of the big business people, such as John Rockefeller with oil, Andrew Carnegie in the steel industry. Can you think of anyone else? Who are the other big giants of the Industrial Revolution? What about the working class? What were their conditions, wages? How about injuries? Well, we usually don't think of children working in factories, but there was a great deal of child labor and it was absolutely very legal. Children as young as 6 years old worked in factories for 12 hours a day, and they were paid less than adults because they were children, and many times they received no pay because they were either orphans or the factory owner gave them a spot to sleep in the factory and maybe fed them a little bit. So that would be their room and board, and they would work in exchange for that. Perhaps one of the largest disasters that we think of, at least historically, is the Triangle Shirt Factory fire. This happened in New York, where 146 girls and women died. And they were roughly between the ages of 11 to 40, and most were in their late teens. Although not necessarily all of them were, and they were really locked in. They were locked in because the factory owners did not want them to.
There were really horrible
working conditions. Talk to these union organizers that were trying to get them to
How would you
unionize
protest?
and
What
to
would you
protest
do?
the really strike. Workers organized and they collected into collective bargaining units, and as a group they decided to not work or work stoppage. One of these was the railroad strike of 1877 in Virginia. Wages were cut by the company just because wages were cut. Actually, there were some other economic reasons going on at the time. Because the wages were cut, the workers refused to work and they struck. There was violence, and then federal troops were sent in. Why were federal troops sent in? Kind of think about that one. Why would the government go in and break that strike? Whose side was the government on? There was also another very important strike called the Homestead Strike in 1892, and these were just several of many that occurred. This was in the Iron and Steel Workers, Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers. So they were striking to protest poor wages, working conditions, and so forth. And the steel industry sent in 300 strike breakers who were Pinkerton detectives. They told the strikers to not strike, and there was a little bit of confrontation. Someone fired on the strikers. There was violence, and again, the National Guard was sent in to break the strike. So is this something that you would do? Would you, in protest of these horrible working conditions, low wages, protest against your employer that way?